So I run an SEO agency, and I do a bunch of research in the SEO space, and I do my workshops and my talks. What I love about SEO is that it's constantly changing. And for those of you who've been doing SEO for a while, I'm sure that you could feel it. My goal for today is to have you thinking a little bit differently about SEO so that you can approach the campaigns that you're working on, the content that you're creating, and your SEO strategy differently when you leave my talk today. So hi, my name is Dale Betrand. I wanted to tell you guys about a project that I was offered earlier this year. So I started off the year on a high note because I was offered a $500,000 web project by one of my clients. Now this was a mortgage client, and this project was really, really tempting and hard to turn down. The mortgage client, they were dealing with rising mortgage rates and falling demand for mortgages. And at my agency, I would have loved to have a $500,000 project just to make sure that I could keep everybody on the payroll till the end of the year. But unfortunately, I had to turn the project down. And I'm going to show you guys why I made that decision. Now, the project would have involved building out a big educational mortgage website with educational content on things like saving for your house or how to find an agent. And this is not the right strategy going into 2025 because of Google's AI overviews and because this type of educational content does not convert very well. And then also there was stiff competition in the mortgage space with Bank of America and Rocket Mortgage and all the big guys. Also, my client was ignoring the conversion data that they had on their existing website. What was converting in their Google Ads account and also in organic was mortgage rates, keywords, and searches. And then also people searching for information about different loan types. And then also people who were looking for an application because they wanted to apply now. Another thing that was missing was they were ignoring conversion tactics that were working really well on their site. One of the conversion tactics was the calculators that we had introduced that were increasing the conversion rates on the site, but also the mortgage rates, calls to action, and then the mortgage applications, getting people like pre-approval messaging was working really well. But really what they were missing was they were ignoring the future of search. And a big part of the future of search is generative AI and how we've all seen, you raise your hand if you've seen the AI overviews in Google. I assume everybody has. These AI overviews are wonderful for our customers, but not so great for marketers when it means that our customers are getting the answers to their questions, but they don't need to actually come to our website anymore. So not only is search technology changing, and our customers are using ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever their platform of choice is, but it's important to realize what the real change is here that's going to be impactful on our marketing strategy is the change in customer behavior, the change in how our customers search for products and services and the information that they need to make a buying decision. They're going to ask longer queries. They're going to have conversations with ChatGPT or Google. They're going to expect to get a direct answer when they ask a question in Google, not a research project in the form of 10 links and they've got to go to 10 different websites and figure out what's true and find the answer for themselves. So that change in consumer behavior, the way our customers do their searches, is what's going to have the most impact on the way that we change our SEO strategies and our content strategies going forward. So the rest of the presentation here, I'm going to dive into what I told my mortgage client to do instead of the big educational content website that they had asked me to build for them. My name is Dale Betrand. I run an SEO agency, Fire&Spark, in Boston. We're 25 people. We only do SEO strategy. We don't build websites. We don't write content. We just focus on SEO strategy. I studied AI in grad school, so when I switched from software over to marketing, everybody was asking me to do SEO. That's how I ended up with an SEO agency, and we've got a bunch of clients with slick-looking logos. So you guys have seen AI overviews. So you know that it can help you answer really important questions like, who is Jeff Bezos dating nowadays? But it gives you a direct answer. And then there are also some source links if you choose to click to a website, but you usually don't have to for educational searches. One of the problems with AI overviews is even if you have the first result, it's going to push that first result down the page. So we're expecting less clicks. Now, interestingly, we're tracking the data. And the data so far this year is showing that AI overviews isn't actually affecting traffic to any of our clients or any of the other websites that we monitor. It's really been additive, where people are asking Google the type of questions that people didn't ask Google before, because Google couldn't answer those types of questions. So it's very interesting to me that we're not seeing the decline in organic clicks and organic traffic that we expected. We might in the future, but so far, looking at the data, we're just not seeing it. So is anybody here old enough to remember the yellow pages? Okay, I am too. I'd love to get up here like Oprah and say, you get a car, you get a car. But if you're old enough to remember the yellow pages, they're probably going to take away your license soon anyway. So, sorry about that. So I learned how to use the yellow pages because if you're looking for a photographer, you go to the photography page. They give you a bunch of photographers. You call them. Some of them will call you back. And that's how I learned to use the yellow pages. Then Google came along, and Google was just a lot better. But you learned with Google to search in this weird keyword language. You search for like ice cream near me or barber for kids or something like that. It wasn't natural. And then we all started to use generative AI like ChatGPT and Perplexity.ai. And we learned that we can search in a much more natural way. I can go to Perplexity or Google's AI overviews and I can say, find me a restaurant in Seattle for a lunch with one of my clients. My client is vegan and I'm lactose intolerant, and this guy isn't my biggest client, so I don't want it to be a steakhouse. And schedule it for noon, and it'll schedule it for you, which is crazy. But the way that you search, I wouldn't even call that searching. I would call that more information retrieval. But it feels more like having a conversation with a friend who lives in Seattle, or an expert in traveling to Seattle, or something like that. It's a much different search experience that generative AI makes possible. Now, I've been human my whole life, and I know a lot of humans, and what I know about humans is we're lazy. So even though this generative AI is wrong 1% of the time, 5% of the time, depending on who you ask, our customers are still going to use it because it gives a quick, direct answer. Now, how this affects our strategy is a lot of us in this room have been doing inbound marketing for a long time. HubSpot popularized it. We're all doing it. What inbound marketing is about is you publish content, informational content, the type of educational content that my mortgage client wanted to publish. And that gets a lot of people top of the funnel to your website. So they land on your website, and you have the opportunity to cookie them for retargeting or grab their email address so that you can hit them up with your email marketing. And then you can drive them to a sales page. And that's inbound marketing. And the reason why it worked is because you can write a lot of that educational content for the top of the funnel and get a ton of people to your website from Google. What we are expecting in the time frame that we're expecting this is more towards the second half of 2025, is that more of your customers are going to be using generative AI search. And they are going to be educated by Google. Think of Google as a closed platform where Google's giving them information about your products and your services and other alternative solutions to help them make their decision. And Google's doing all this without ever sending them to your website. But of course, Google is trained on the content that you've written, that you're putting online. So what we need to be doing as marketers in this new generative AI search world is publishing mid-funnel content. This is not educational blog articles, and this is what I told my mortgage client. These are comparisons or interactive tools or things that work like mortgage calculators, even though there's already a ton of mortgage calculators online. And Q&A, as long as it's focused on purchase intent keywords. And niche buying guides that we publish for our clients. These are content formats that will engage our customers who have already been educated through Google. Now, one important thing is that we expect this traffic that lands on our mid-funnel SEO content to be much better qualified than the traffic that was landing on our blog articles with the traditional search and inbound marketing that we've all been doing for a long time. And I have some inside information from the head of AI and search at Bing at Microsoft, and he said that the traffic that they're sending from Bing's Copilot is 10 times more qualified and converts, and they know that because it converts at a 10 times higher rate than the traditional traffic that we were getting to blog articles. And if you think about it, all of us have been publishing educational blog articles and just getting random traffic, and we get excited when our traffic goes up. But it's not qualified traffic. This new paradigm with generative AI search it's just gonna send us better, more qualified traffic because we're creating content that's targeting this middle of the funnel, and people are getting educated before they ever come to the website. We will do questions at the end, so we will have time. And then, of course, this mid-funnel content will send people to the sales page. If I could pose, I can't do it. I was going to pose with the slide for people who are taking pictures of the slide, but I don't even know how to pose. So the way that we're going to update our SEO strategies in a world, as AI would say, in a world with generative AI search, the landscape has changed to a reveal. So we're going to focus on the metrics that matter, not the vanity metrics that all of us have been focused on for the last decade. So what we've been doing, and I'm not going to point at any individual in the room, I'm just going to point at you all collectively. What you've been doing is SEO for rankings. And what you get excited about for SEO for rankings is traffic, and traffic going up and to the right. The problem with SEO for rankings is that the vast majority of that traffic, I would say 99%, for some of you it's 99.9% of that traffic, does not convert into anything meaningful for your business. So it is not aligned to a business initiative or business metric that actually matters, like maybe the quality of the leads you're generating with your organic traffic, or sales, or revenue, or patient acquisition, whatever it is for your business. Now, SEO for revenue, which is the title of this talk, is aligned with the business metric that you actually care about. And anybody want to shout it out? Like, what's the business metric that you actually care about? Not rankings, not traffic. Somebody shout it out. Do me a favor. Somebody. Conversions and conversion opportunities. Anything else? Pipeline, so building out a pipeline of customers. Revenue, I love that because the talk is called SEO for revenue. These are metrics that actually matter. And when you're focused on driving the right traffic to your website and converting that traffic, you're going to move the needle on these metrics that matter, not just rankings and traffic. We live in a world where we might expect traffic to be flat with some of the clients we work with. Traffic is flat, but they've doubled their revenue from organic traffic. That's what we're focused on at my agency and the work that I do. So SEO strategy questions. For old school SEO for rankings, you're going to want to know, what are the highest volume keywords? Because I'm trying to get those clicks to my website. How are we going to track our rankings? Because I'm preoccupied with rankings. And how is organic traffic increasing? But with SEO for revenue, you'll be focused on what questions do our best customers ask so we can answer those questions with our content. And how are we going to track the metric that matters, which might be organic revenue? And what are the highest intent searches that you should be going after, not the highest volume? Because the highest intent searches have the intent to buy a product or a service similar to what you sell, and that's what makes them high intent. So you need to avoid the keyword research trap. I told this story in the workshop yesterday. This summer I was sitting on my deck and I had my laptop because I bring my laptop everywhere. And I typed outdoor lights. But the question is, what was I looking for? Anybody have any idea? And I'll give you some clues. What I might have been looking for when I typed in outdoor lights? Shout it out. Hanging lights on my porch. Anybody else? Christmas lights, I love that. I wish I was looking for, that would have been a lot more fun. I was actually looking for these things, which are solar lights. I had solar lights on my deck, they stopped working. When I made that search, maybe you sell solar lights, maybe you're a contractor that installs solar lights, you would not have known from my search what I was actually looking for. And there's even more context that's hidden, which is I wanted solar only. I didn't care if they were bright. They needed to be 3 inches wide. The screw holes needed to be 2 inches wide. You would never know that from the keyword. Yet all of us from SEO that have been doing SEO have been targeting keywords for a long time. But we don't know what they're actually looking for. Are they looking for what we sell? So the perfect keywords that we used to go after would be keywords that had low competition, high volume, high relevance. That's what we've all been doing for a long time. But that type of keyword research really fails us. It fails us when the keywords are merely relevant, but we don't know what they're relevant to. If somebody types in skiing, are they looking to find a mountain to go skiing at with their kids, which is what I'm usually doing, or are they looking to buy ski equipment? You don't know from the keyword. That means there are multiple intents behind that keyword, and you need to optimize for the intent that matters. The important thing is that you choose your search intents that begin with a verb before you do your keyword research. So search intents that begin with a verb are something like, I'm targeting people that want to learn about solar lights, or I'm targeting people that want to find a college for an art major, or I'm targeting people who are looking to apply for a mortgage. Those are search intents, not keywords. And when you identify those up front, before you do your keyword research has a chance of working. Otherwise, you're going to select a list of keywords that have a number of different intents. Many of them do not align with the intents you're targeting or you should be targeting, and you're going to get a bunch of traffic that will never convert no matter how good you are at CRO. Are you guys following me? Another trap is search volume. If you go after high volume keywords, a keyword like solar panels, it's a high volume keyword, but some of them are looking to install solar panels. Some of them are looking to finance their solar panels. Some of them are researching solar because they're in high school or college and they're writing a research paper. I run an SEO agency. You might imagine that I would want to target a keyword like SEO agency. Makes sense? But I learned the hard way that most people who are typing in SEO agency into Google are looking for a job at an SEO agency. And you just wouldn't know that if the only thing you're doing is targeting keywords. Also, a lot of keywords, especially if you're anybody here in B2B, like you've got a B2B sale, you've got low search volume. So keyword research tools haven't even seen the keywords that you should be targeting. So a keyword like commercial grade wall-mounted reverse osmosis water filters, your keyword research tool has never seen this keyword, so it's not going to be able to suggest it to you. What you need to be doing is talking to your customers to figure out what the right intents are and what the right keywords are to go after. Now, typically with keyword research, we're balancing trade-offs like volume versus relevance or volume versus competition, when what we should really be doing is nailing our search intents that begin with a verb before we get started. Also, what we should be doing is crafting our call to action messaging. So what is the right messaging for somebody who arrives on my website with the intent to apply for a mortgage? And we do that up front before we craft our content strategy, before we decide what content formats, before we write any content. Because the whole goal of the SEO content that we're writing is to bring our customers from the intent that we identified up front to the call to action messaging that we've identified up front before we did any other work. One thing that pees me we're building a new website at my agency, so my team fell into this trap this morning, and I sent a strongly worded email this morning, is a website that has the same call to action on every single page. That makes no sense because we know that every page is designed to target a different intent. So we need a different messaging for every page that aligns with that intent, that is designed to convert somebody who's landing on your website with that intent. So I've already talked about focusing on intent. I have a client that sells chocolate biscotti. You might think that they would want to target the keyword chocolate biscotti. That's what they told me to target, and I had to talk them out of it. It turns out that if you type chocolate biscotti into Google, you can see what shows up. It's recipes. What that means is Google knows the intent behind the keyword chocolate biscotti is not to buy chocolate biscotti at a retail store or even buy it online. It's to make your own biscotti at home. That means this is the wrong keyword for my client. They sell all of their products in supermarkets. So instead, we had to go for keywords like buy chocolate biscotti or chocolate biscotti near me or even chocolate biscotti cookies had the right intent behind it. And the way you figure that out is by typing a keyword into Google after you've identified your intent up front. That's very important, that's crucial. Otherwise, you don't have those intents to filter your keywords. But when you're considering a keyword, you type it into Google, you look at the search results pages because Google is showing the right thing for the keyword because Google knows what the intent is. I call that reading the results for a keyword to figure out what the intent is. Everybody following that? I have a 3-hour workshop, so I'm going through it a little quickly. So what's changed in SEO that changed the way I do SEO strategy is that Google can understand the intent behind keywords. Google is not taking keywords that your customers are searching for and finding them on your website, even though all of us are still putting keywords on our pages. What Google's doing is taking that keyword to figure out what is the intent, what is this person actually looking for, and then matching that intent with pages on your website that might satisfy that intent. That's not Google looking for keywords in your blog articles. That is something fundamentally different. That is AI. Google's also understanding your content, and Google's also concerned about the experience visitors and searchers have on your website. Can they easily find the answer Google knows they're looking for on your pages? So you don't want a dense academic article that's hard to parse through. So back in the day when we were doing keyword targeting, we were focused on what searches were relevant even if they didn't have the right intent. And then also we were prioritizing traffic over conversions or revenue or patient acquisition. And that was really best for lexical search. Lexical search is a search engine that is looking for keywords on your pages, not a semantic search engine based on AI that is understanding the meaning of keywords and the meaning of your content, which is what Google does now. So nowadays, with intent targeting, we're focused on high intent searches, searches that have momentum towards a purchase for the product or service that you sell. I think of relevance as proximity. If a keyword is relevant to what I do, maybe a keyword is something like daycare, and I sell diapers online. Wow, that's relevant because they must be a parent. The problem is if somebody types in daycare, they don't have the intent to buy diapers, they have the intent to research daycares. So it's a big failure. So intent is momentum towards a purchase or momentum to engage with a company or a brand like yours. And that momentum that is, the intent that is that momentum, basically describes a set of possibilities for that search. If somebody is searching for a college for an art major, the set of possibilities for that search is they might schedule a visit, they might download some information, they might even apply to that school. That's what's possible based on the intent. So if they land on my website and I'm selling something completely different, like gourmet food boxes that you can prepare the food at home, and I'm sending you all the ingredients, that's a very random product. But if that's what I sell, then there's a huge mismatch between the intent of the search, even if they land on my website, and the possibilities of that search. So also with intent, we're prioritizing customer needs, like what questions do they ask when they're making a buying decision. The key here with intent targeting is to identify those intents and talk to your customers to refine those intents. And so you understand the questions your customers are asking when they're making a purchase decision, so you can put those answers on your website and Google's AI will find them. Especially if you answer questions that your competitors aren't willing to answer, like your pricing structure and what types of clients or customers your product or service works best for or works the least best for. And once again, that's semantic search. So how do you determine intent? Like I said, you read the results, give Google a keyword, see what's on the results page. You can use Gemini, which is one of Google's AI search engines, and ask it. You can ask Google what the intent is behind a keyword, and it'll tell you nowadays. And you can ask your customers. It's really best to talk to your customers to identify intents and understand them. So where we end up is we end up with this old model around the best perfect keywords, which was a low competition, a high volume, highly relevant keyword. And we're replacing this model with a new model of your perfect search. I won't even call it a keyword anymore. I call it a search. And the new model is a search that has acceptable competition. Maybe it's high, maybe it's low, but the point is the best searches are going to have some competition because they're going to convert. And if you're in a B2B space, you might have a ton of competition just because there aren't very many searches. And then it has enough volume to justify the resources that you're going to put into it, the resources that you're going to put into building out the content and optimizing those pages. And then also the perfect keyword going forward has clear intent. It's not relevant. It's not merely relevant. What I mean by clear intent is that you as the marketer are clear on the intent that you're targeting when you chose this keyword. Then some of the volume for that keyword, or maybe all of that volume for the keyword, will be the intent that you're targeting, and that is the reason why you are targeting this particular keyword. You guys following this? Does it make sense? Everybody good? All right. So a better approach is to identify the search intents up front before you do keyword research, before you put together your content strategy, and critically, before you choose the type of content you're going to create. And you're not going to write blog articles anymore because that's just not the right type of content when you take this approach. You will see that. And then you're filtering your keywords based on those intents that you identified up front. And you're choosing your content format and your topics based on those intents. Is this the right format? For example, if somebody's trying to find a college for an art major, that is the intent that you've identified. You'll ask yourself the question, what are the right keywords? And then you'll ask yourself the question, what are the right content formats for this intent? It's probably not a blog article. It's probably more something like what I would think of as a buying guide that answers all of their questions about applying to an art college. Or it could be a comparison article that's data-driven with some data that you've gotten from the college board or from the, and I forget the name of the federal agency that oversees colleges, but we've grabbed a lot of data from them in the past. But that's usually not a blog article. Now, when we're thinking about these different types of content, what we're doing is we're looking at, like I said, how customer journeys are changing and what that content should be. At the beginning of a customer journey, and you guys all know your exact customer journeys, your customers are problem focused and they're thinking something like, my door lock is broken, and they're going to Google and typing in door lock repair. And this is how they are learning and getting themselves educated, maybe through AI overviews or some other generative AI search engine, about the different solutions. Some of them are DIY solutions, some of them are the products and services that you guys sell. The type of content you would create at the beginning of that journey is those educational articles. But the problem is we expect towards the second half of 2025, and I want you guys all to skateboard to where the puck is going when it comes to search, is that Google will be educating your customers, not your website, not your blog articles, not your educational content. So instead, we're focused on the middle of the funnel where your customers are solution focused. In this example, they'll be thinking, I want to upgrade to a smart lock because they just got educated on the smart locks. They didn't know that they existed, but AI overviews taught them all of the reasons why they might want a smart lock. And they're going to Google and they're typing in smart locks. What we want them to find is your mid-funnel content. These are the comparison pages or the niche buying guides or the Q&A content or the interactive tool to help them figure out which smart lock is the right smart lock for them. That is the type of content that you should be creating going into 2025 and especially the second half of 2025. Then when they're at the end of their journey and they're almost ready to buy, they're going to be brand focused because maybe they noticed that Google's Nest lock has the best reviews. And now they're going to Google and they're typing in Google Nest Lock, which is a little incestuous, but that's what they're doing. And what you want them to, your customers to do at the end of their journey is to land on a product page or a service page for the product or service that you sell with a big buy button or talk to a sales associate, whatever that is. But really you want to have those niche focused services page or focused product pages for the end of your customer's journey. Now, here I'm showing some examples. I hope that we'll have some time for some Q&A, but data-driven comparisons. I love data-driven comparison pages because you can create visuals, and what we found is these data-driven comparisons, they generate a lot more traffic than a blog article. It's the right traffic because you're going to design and build them to target the right search intents, and they convert much, much better because you can put those CTAs with messaging that are aligned to the search intents in many different places in these visual calls to action. I will answer your question at the end. Oh, I have 5 minutes. I thought he was raising his hand to ask a question. And then also the niche buying guides. We have an e-commerce client we were working with that did a whole bunch of niche buying guides. That's why I call them niche buying guides and not buying guides. You want to do multiple buying guides regardless of what you sell. You might be a company that specializes in reverse osmosis, commercial grade, industrial, wall-mounted water filters, and that's the only thing that you sell. But you still want to have multiple buying guides on your website. In that case, when your products are so specific, you can think about them for different segments of your audience. And then interactive tools. These types of tools, think about them as things like mortgage calculators. They are much easier to create nowadays with AI. You do not need a developer, so that's why I'm creating a lot more of them. And we put them on SEO pages or pages that are already doing well that we want to perform better. Put them at the top in the same way you would put a video at the top of one of those pages to improve your engagement and get better traffic and more traffic that is the right targeted traffic from Google. But you used to need a developer to do this. You just don't need it anymore. And then video. We're doing a lot more video. Video works very well. I want to make sure that you guys can grab my slides. I've got a few more examples that I'm not going to have time to get to. So grab my slides to make sure that you get everything in here. And I'm going to go through one more example, and then we will be done. I'll give you guys a chance, hopefully, to get this. But I also talked about calls to action and how you want your calls to action messaging to be aligned with the search intent that you're going after. The whole goal here is you do that alignment, and that's how you're going to get more conversion. This is how we take clients from 0.1% conversion to like a single-digit conversion rate, which is much better. You can imagine if you're going after an intent like your customers who are looking to find a credit card with travel perks. That might be your intent. In this case, you might go after the keyword like travel rewards, but you're really going after that intent that begins with a verb. You don't want to give them a call to action that says apply now, because that's not very well aligned with that intent. The intent you would go, or the messaging you would use in your call to action is something like compare cards, because that's more aligned with the intent that you're going after. Sometimes when you're going after a keyword with a specific intent in mind, there are actually multiple intents behind that keyword. What you do is you write content and you build your calls to action for the intent you actually care about, and you ignore all of those other intents. Now, make sure the CTAs match the stage that you're at. There's some examples here that you'll get when you get my slides. I've also improved conversion rates dramatically by 10x by building out interactive tools. Like think about that mortgage calculator where when they give you the information to calculate their payment, it dumps them directly into the application, and that's why the conversion rates go through the roof. And once again, you can generate these in Claude. Now, I'm going to go through this because we've already talked about it. SEO strategy needs to change. My last slide here, when you guys get my slides, will give you some information that I think is important about how to educate the folks you work with from the CEO all the way down, because you are going to be doing something different with your content strategy and your SEO. It's not going to be about just generating traffic anymore. It's going to be about you as a marketer taking responsibility for a business metric that matters to your leadership team and educating them on how the work that you're doing is going to drive that metric. That's how all of us in this room are going to get our raises and retirement and all of that good stuff, and retire on your beach of choice. So this is my last giveaway for you guys that should help you. For everything that I talked about today, I have AI prompts that I use to do this AI strategy work. This is a PDF that has 30 of my prompts in it that you guys can use with Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude in order to do the type of SEO using the strategies that I talked about today. And thank you for your attention. I hope you got something out of it.